What's up everybody, Super WX fan here for another car review. This is of course the 2003 Volkswagen GTI VR6. And many of you had been asking me to review more affordable cars. And this is a car that just about anyone can afford. This is around 10,000 bucks and a very attainable car and a very fun car. It's a very good option for those of you that are on a budget. So, about this car, well, I think, for being 10 years old, it still looks pretty good. I mean, it's a little bit dated now, but I think, it still is attractive. It doesn't look bad or anything like that. Very simplistic, basic kind of design to this car. It was very conservative, which is why it aged pretty well. Many thanks to Harrison Auto Sales for hooking me up with this car to review for you guys today. All right, so for the interior of this car, 10-year-old Volkswagen. So, yeah, all the plastics here feel very cheap. Everything's a little wiggly and not very firm. There's a lot of little squeaks and rattles and things that these cars normally suffer from. One thing, though, is this center console kind of gets in the way here. I mean, it's nice to have an armrest here, and you can always just flip it up and fold it out of the way if you'd like to, but it just kind of gets in the way of the e-brake and even the shifter whenever you're shifting. It just feels a little awkward. It's nice you can put it down for, highway trips or something, but if you're, shifting a lot and stuff, that really gets in the way. It's kind of a poor design. I wish it was just pushed back a little bit further. Otherwise, though, the plastics in this car, too, gets scratched very easily. So you'll see around, like, the door handles and just about any plastic surface in this car, it's prone to scratches and peeling and things like that. Not a huge fan of these older Volkswagen interiors, actually. The steering wheel is pretty nice. It has a nice 9 3 position. But otherwise, it's your basic leather-wrapped steering wheel. Nothing special about it. But I do, appreciate the fact it has a good 9 3 position. Gauges, again, very simple. They were basically the same gauges Volkswagen had been using for years and years and years. Good-looking gauges. I mean, pretty ordinary. Nothing really impressive. Same thing with this radio here. This is, again, a 10-year-old car, so you have a single disc CD, and then you have, FM, AM, and stuff like that. This one, though, was, a nicer Volkswagen. So instead of having the manual climate control, this does have Climatronic automatic climate control, which you set the temperature and it does it for you. So that's a nicer little feature instead of just having the old school knobs. And yeah, otherwise it's nice. One thing though, these seats in this car are very, very nice. They have nice thick side bolsters here for your torso and for the thigh area. There's really thick bolsters down there, so these seats really hold you in place nicely. They have a little bit of wiggle room here, so people that are of larger size can also feel nice and snug in these seats. But even me being a slim guy, I feel really good in these seats. The seats are really nice. The only problem with the seats, they sit a little too high up. You can adjust the height, but this is on the lowest setting, and I still feel like I'm sitting up a little higher than I'd like to be. And as far as storage goes in this car, you have, the door pockets like normal. You have a little tiny like ashtray area down here with a power outlet next to the shifter. And then your cup holders you have up here, which is kind of another bad design because it literally sits right in front of the radio display. So if you want to play around with the radio, you have no idea what's going on with the radio if you have a drink in there. Again, just not very well thought out in my opinion. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, this car has like heated seats, a few other premium features like that. The material on these seats is pretty nice. It's basic cloth, but it's held up well over the years. But aside from that little cubby down by the shifter and the little cubby you get in the center armrest, there's no other storage places really. I mean, there's a tiny little thing here for coins or something. Really not much storage capacity. You would think that a practical car like this you would have more, but you really don't. But the trunk hatch area is quite deep. It has a good amount of space in there, so you can fit some pretty good things. And those seats in the back fold down as well, so you have a pretty decent amount of cargo space back there if you'd like to. And the back seats are actually more spacious than you might think. There's a good amount of legroom back there that you could fit 4 average sized people in there pretty nicely. I mean, since this is a hatchback, headroom is excellent in the back as well. And, it's a very airy back seat as well because those rear glass windows are enormous. So they have a great view back there as well. And it also gives you great visibility. All right, so let's take it for a drive and see how it does. Alright, so first impressions of this GTI. Well, I'm on this bumpy park road right now, and it soaks up bumps pretty well. I mean, it has a firm ride, but it's not harsh or anything like that. You know, it's firm. I mean, this is a sporty car, so you kind of expect that. Doesn't have a luxury car ride, and I didn't expect that anyway. And yeah, it's a nice ride though so far. It feels great. It's nice having all the large glass as well. You have a very airy feel in here. It's also pretty quiet in here whenever you're driving as well. So far, it's not a lot of wind noise or engine noise or anything. You can drive this car very nice and relaxed. But let's pull onto this back road here and see how it does on the corners. So, we have a V6 engine in this car with 200 horsepower. And if that sounds low for a V6, you're right. I mean, my BRZ does the same thing. But the difference is, a V6 with 200 horsepower has a whole lot more torque than a 4-cylinder with 200 horsepower. So, this car feels really torquey. It has a great punch down low. Once you get into the higher RPM ranges, it doesn't feel quite as powerful. But it does have really nice mid-range punch. It's really nice. This car has a 6-speed manual as well, and it's got longer throws, not extremely precise, but it works decently well. You know, it's not bad. Again, for a 10-year-old car with 82,000 miles on it, feels pretty good. So going around some corners here, it feels very nice and planted. It really does. I was expecting a little more body roll, but it's really quite flat. I'm impressed. And steering in this car, it's pretty sharp. I don't really have anything to say much about the steering. It's a pretty average feel, good enough that I don't have to complain about anything. Okay, so going around that tight corner there was some body roll. This car is about 3,000 pounds, so it's a little bit on the heavy side, I guess you could say. I mean, that's still pretty light. That's pretty good, but it's not like sports car levels of lightness or anything like that. It doesn't feel as good as a Miata or a BRZ. Another acceleration. Yeah, it pulls strong. It's nice. It really does feel good whenever you get on the power. Plenty of power for sure. That's one thing that's really nice about this VR6 model. Other things, throttle response is a little delayed, and the brake pedal doesn't have very good feel. So, you know, not the best pedal setup here, but I mean, again, 10-year-old car, I'll give it a little bit of an allowance. So I'm going to drive this car for a while longer though here and get some more impressions of it, and I'll come back and let you know what it's like. Alright, so I've been driving this car for a while now, and a few more impressions about the car. Well, first off, it feels pretty nice and small, so it's you know, very easy when you're parking and moving around in tight spaces. It feels nice and small, which is good. One thing though is the springs are on the softer side, so it gives you a pretty nice ride, but it's a little bit more body roll than I would like. That's something you can easily fix in the aftermarket though, not a big deal. Another thing though is because this car has so much torque, you do have a decent amount of torque steer. It's not like horrid, but it's a little, you know, it's just undesirable really, and you have to really be driving it hard for it to torque steer though. It's very, very mild torque steer, but it is there. But that's to be expected of a front-wheel drive car with this much torque. So what do I think about this final verdict here? It's okay. Honestly, okay, now I'm not just complaining because this is a 10-year-old car. If I wanted to buy a 10-year-old front-wheel drive hatchback, I would have a Mini Cooper S, hands down, and I'll tell you why. I've driven a Mini Cooper S many times, and the older one and the newer ones, and the 2003 Mini Cooper S, you know, they have a smaller engine that has a supercharger on it, but they feel sharper, the steering is sharper, the handling is sharper, it feels a little smaller. You still have about a good amount of interior space and a decent amount of cargo space in that car. It's a little bit smaller than this, but very, very, very close. And another reason why I choose the Mini over this is because of the soundtrack. Those old Minis had the supercharger, and the second you stomped on the gas, you heard this whine in those Mini Cooper S's, and it was so cool, so much fun. The power delivery in that car was really enjoyable. This car, it's your standard V6 soundtrack, but it's pretty quiet too, so there's not a whole lot of excitement here as far as, you know, engine sounds are concerned. I mean, sure, you can throw an exhaust system on it and things like that, but I would prefer the sound of having a little crazy supercharger on the front end of this little Mini. And I mean, personally, I prefer the looks of the Mini better. I mean, some people might think it's a little bit too much of a chick car or too cute. I love the Mini though, because again, I like retro, old-fashioned kind of stuff. The Mini is a clear throwback to the original Mini Cooper, and this car just, I don't know, it just looks like a 10-year-old Volkswagen. It doesn't really stand out. It's pretty ho-hum and boring. You know, I would personally rather have a Mini Cooper S myself. So that's my verdict. This car is okay. It's not bad. If you prefer a Volkswagen over Mini, this is still a good car. I just personally would rather go for a Mini Cooper S myself. So yeah, but many thanks to Harrison Auto Sales as always for hooking me up with this car to review for you guys. And this car is available on their lot, so if you're interested in it, give them a call, come by, check it out, and they'd love to help you out. So many thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.